They called it magic, madness, make-believe. But what if I told you the mystery was meant for you? This is Spooky Happy Hour. Let's discover your spirit.
Welcome back to Spooky Happy Hour. I'm your host, Bree, and on today's episode, I'm joined by a New York native and evidential medium. She channels spirit as the middle ground. Welcome the human Ouija board herself, medium Bianca Rose. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and first off, I do want to say thank you for your continued dedication to healing through connection with the spirit realm. You've helped so many people find comfort and growth, some that I personally know and have ranted and raved about that experience. So you're part of their journey forever, and it's just so important what you do.
Thank you. It's an honor. It really is.
Yeah, and up until recently, I didn't even know that there were different types of medium. So being an evidential medium, from what I understand, right? It means that when you make those connections to spirit, they give you such personalized information that
That's the
it's
way,
almost irrefutable.
yeah, that's the way I like to do it. I like it to be, I like the reason why, okay, I call myself an evidential medium because when I have people's loved ones step forward, I want to be able to present evidence. I like them to step forward in order, literally like who passes first, who passes second, who pass. I want them to step forward in that order. But then I also want them to go into graphic detail, literally, of how they passed. Some people get uncomfortable. There's been a few incidents where the client is like, "Why are you telling me how my dad died?" And I'm like, "Well, they are telling you how they passed because it's giving you the knowing that I'm not BSing you, but also so you know that there is life after death, through these profound evidential facts, how they passed, what exactly happened to them, how old they were, are they buried, are they cremated. So I make sure that they present all of the evidential facts. And that's why I call myself an evidential medium. I don't know. I mean, I could call myself a psychic medium, but evidential medium seems a little bit important to me. I feel like that's a new term maybe that's coming around because I've heard from other people like, oh, it's a new term that's coming, up in our industry. Because some people call themselves psychic mediums, some people call themselves spirit mediums.
Mm.
I don't like to give any credit to myself. I don't want to call myself a psychic. I give all credit to them.
Right, I think that's kind of the label of the human Ouija board, right? Like that you do identify yourself with that label sometimes too, because you are the conduit for the communication.
People start calling me that because of how I read. Like I have my hand on the surface, and that's also how it all started. I realized that I could literally like take, with a Ouija board. Why does it always work for me? Then from there, I would take a piece of paper and write out the Ouija board letters. Say take a quarter. Why does it still work for Bianca and always Bianca? And then I realized that what they were doing is they are specifically moving me. And then as I got older, I realized that they could literally take my hand and make me write full sentences. So I could tell you everything that they are saying word for word. Recently, though, in the past month and a half, I noticed that during my readings, I wasn't doing this as much. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if I'm just like
Mm.
evolving. I don't know. But
Like a
recently I noticed,
natural progression.
yeah, like I'll just start relaying all the messages without this. This makes it go so much quicker. I'm not really sure why all of a sudden it shifted. Only in the past month I noticed that I wasn't putting my hand down as much doing this. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it seems like you're saying you think that there's some connection there of maybe another evolution, right? Like the next level of your channeling abilities of not having
Maybe
to be,
I
orchestrated
really
in that
like. I mean,
manner.
it really does make it so, like it goes so much quicker. Like they're just talking so fast. I'm telling you everything that they are saying while I hear, see, and feel. But recently I had to do a gallery performance in front of like about 100 people, and I was standing with a microphone. It's kind of hard to do a microphone, have my hand resting on something. I noticed occasionally during the gallery performance, I'd have my hand on my thigh, kind of
Mhm.
doing that from time to time. But I don't know, there's so many different ways I could go with it. It's still the same thing though. I'm literally doing everything that I am doing, hearing, seeing, feeling, knowing, saying. I can't
Yeah.
explain any of it scientifically in the slightest, but
What's the difference when you're one-on-one with somebody versus a gallery reading? Do you hear are these all competing spirits trying to come up at the same time, or how do you make those boundaries for a smaller intimate setting and then a bigger gallery reading?
so for a one-on-one, say I was reading you. It's going to be a quieter environment. It is there really is no difference for me. You could stick me in a
Mhm.
bar. Literally, I'm at a Starbucks right now. I
Yeah.
literally sit at Starbucks all the time doing readings. I don't care if I'm in public places, there's tons of people around me. Intention is everything. So when
Mhm.
I'm reading you for a one-on-one, my intention is to only connect to you, your higher self, your soul, your spirit guides, and all of your loved ones in spirit. In a gallery like setting, I'm setting the intention to specifically only connect to each individual person that I am reading throughout the gallery. Sometimes things will cross, typically it doesn't, but my intention will be to read person to person. And it's not vague. I'm like, oh, I have grandma over here in this section of the audience. I don't do that. I'm going to scan the room and I'm going to point to whatever person and be like, can I read you? I always ask permission first and then I begin. I'll give that person their reading and then I'll go to the next person. I try to read as many people as I possibly can, say during that 2 hour performance. But intention is everything. I'm setting the intention to specifically read person to person. It's kind of like, I don't know, boundaries. I set rules.
Yeah, well, it kinda sounds like you and that other person, whether you're in a gallery, in a bar on the side of a busy city street, right? It's kind of like a bubble goes around, like you and whoever else that, like, you're reading, and it's really just
Yes.
the 2 of you.
I'm setting the intention. Younger Bianca, like growing up Bianca, like when she first starts messing with Ouija boards, Bianca, that Bianca didn't realize you need to set an intention and you need to have rules. You can't just start talking to anything and everything. But that is something that I am technically doing at paranormal locations. I'm inviting whatever to step forward, which is risky. And there's always risks, doing it.
Right. Risks and
So,
reward and, a lot like you're saying in this area of your life, you know how to kind of maybe get that like or help others get the reward that they're looking for of like being open to receiving these messages. But when you were younger, living in a haunted house, having spiritual abilities, you were kind of living in like a travel channel paranormal show. And as entertaining as we maybe find that, but living it as a child, I'm
right.
sure was terrifying and
It was.
traumatic. So,
It
like, how
was.
did your senses, like, how did you make sense of those experiences when you were younger to get to this point? And, like, when did you meet your guides along the journey that helped you get where you are now?
So it started off at a really young age. I must have been 12 years old when things really started to go forward. And I was actively communicating with things in the house, like literally the way I do now. But at that age, I didn't realize you can't just talk to anything or anything might come calling. So at a very young age, 11, 12 years old, the whole Ouija board thing, me and the neighbor kids next door playing with Ouija boards. And then I'd go home. And that's when I realized, like, why is it only working for me? And I took a piece of paper and wrote everything out. And I was using a quarter and it still worked for me. And then I started to realize that this is me doing this. Um, a big sign for me ever since I was little, if my hand starts to do a figure eight, that means there's a spirit in the room and they want my attention and I am not paying attention. So they just kind of start to make my hand maybe do a circle or do the figure eight. But I started to talk to this entity all the time in that house growing up here on Long Island in Patchogue, and it called itself Dubby, and it like tried to pretend it it portrayed itself as like my protector, that it was protecting me from the other spirits, the other things in the house, because there was something else there that was scary. Little did I know that that was the scary thing. So
Mhm.
it called itself Dubby. Now let's fast forward. I'm in my 30s. I don't talk to the neighbor for years. I reconnect with her in my 30s. She's an older woman, she's in her 60s. And she reaches out to me to let me know that all the things that I talked about as a young child was real, that the army men that I kept seeing was real, and that the woman that I kept seeing was real. So the house next door was an army barrack, if I'm saying that correctly, like two little houses where soldiers would come back from the war to be rehabilitated, they would die, and so
Mhm.
forth. And then eventually a couple buys that property and they push the houses together and make a home. He goes absolutely insane. He blows off his wife's head. Okay. So the neighbor reaches out to me to verify all these facts, to let me know that I wasn't a crazy little girl, that what I was doing and saying was real. She was able to find this through the historical archives through our local library in Patchogue. So she was able to validate all those things. Okay. Now her name is Debbie, this woman. Okay. So now I'm in my older 30s. I'm thinking maybe that entity that I was always talking to, maybe it was a play on words and it was calling itself Debbie because the neighbor's name is Debbie. But what I recently found out in the past maybe 2 years, that if you take the B's and turn them around, those are P's. You know, if you flip them,
Mhm.
it spells duppy. A duppy is a malevolent, evil spirit in the Caribbean culture. Its intention is to possess, like fully possess, typically women, to take over and ultimately kill them. So I found that mind blowing, that that entire time I was talking to some malevolent spirit, like a duppy. It's a duppy, an evil
Yeah.
spirit,
Do you
and its
think that there's
intention
any
is to possess.
connection to, like, what you're going through currently with that experience too?
So I always question if maybe I'm still dragging whatever it is from my childhood to now, but I don't think it is, because I've done a lot of work with a location. I don't want to throw them under the bus because I'm still working with them and I love them so much. And I love working with this location. I love performing there. But I uncovered something that they knew about that they didn't release to the public. When I went there for the first time, I presented the information to that location. They're like, "How the hell do you know this information?" They're like, "This isn't public yet. Nobody knows about any of this stuff." And I'm
You're
like,
like,
"Well,
"Hello."
I did an hour and a half deprivation session prior to going to that location. And I said, show me the haunting." They showed me all of the historical stuff, the Underground Railroad, doors opening, closing, balls bouncing and rolling, lots of really cool information. And then there was one thing that stepped forward that I couldn't place. It doesn't make sense why it's there. It was never human. It was never of this earth. I described it to the T. They were like, "What the hell? How do you know about this thing?" So this is a completely different case, and
Mm.
I really love it. I love it so much. I think this is one of the most interesting cases I've ever worked on in my career. It has changed the trajectory of my career. Like, it's just mind blowing and it's really amazing. And I love the work that I'm doing that's involved with this and everything. But it definitely impacted my life to a crazy degree.
Yeah,
Every
talking
time I'm
about
about
those
to,
risks, you know? Like,
it
is
is a
there
risk.
anything where, like, you would ever encounter someone that says, like, "Wow, this risk is too big. Like, I've gone too far. I've done too much. I've done X, Y, or Z." Do you ever feel like there's a line in the sand that you've drawn for that?
I might have hit that line recently. You know, I've
Mhm.
questioned it. I'm like, should I not be going back there? Every time I'm about to go back there to continue my work, the second I hit the beginning of the month of me going there, everything goes crazy in my life. Um, the last time I was going back there, the week leading up to it, there was times where I was dreaming that I was possessed, like full on possession, like something you see in the movies on the Travel Channel. And in my sleep, I'm acting possessed, you know, in the dreams. I'm growling, I'm like convulsing, contorting. What I didn't know was that I was really doing it in my sleep. I was growling in my sleep. I was convulsing and contorting and like acting crazy in my sleep. And my boyfriend is shaking me, going, "Bianca, wake up. It's happening again. It's happening again." Because this isn't the first time. Every time
Mhm.
I'm about to go back, thank God it hasn't happened yet, but I still have 2 weeks till I get to this location again. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again. Um, I don't know, just wild stuff. Just waking up with scratches in my face, just all sorts of. I mean, the possession dreams kind of like tops it though. Like, it's really,
I was gonna say that's pretty gnarly, especially when it's like there's
it's
something
not
in
even
your
just a
waking life.
dream. I'm
Yeah.
literally doing it in my sleep, where my boyfriend is shaking me, going, "Bianca, it's happening again. Wake up, wake up." Like, he's trying to get me up, because there's been numerous instances where I'm literally growling, so like I'm growling as if I'm possessed. Like,
Yeah.
it
Well, you
is
said too,
something you
like
have to experience
in the
for yourself,
dream, right? So like when you said dream and then went like this, like what does that mean to you in terms of like a dream? Mm.
because it's weird. It's actually happening in my sleep. I'm
Mhm.
literally growling. Like, it's really wild. It's really wild. Um, I don't know. And it's like usually there are dreams of the location. I'm in the location. I'm trying to get rid of the thing in the location. Then it jumps into me. I become possessed. Hopefully, this is not going to happen in real life to that degree.
Right, I was gonna say not some foreshadowing, some type
I
of
don't know.
event or something, but like I would assume that the vulnerability of sleep, just because your like conscious mind is shut down doesn't mean that there's not part of you that's still awake and open to certain
You're
things.
very vulnerable in your sleep. You are in an altered state of consciousness for anybody. That's why it's so easy for people's loved ones to come to them while you are sleeping, and you get those visitations. It's because you are in an altered state of consciousness, making it easy for things to come in to talk to you. So whether you're a psychic medium or not, when you're in that sleep-like state, if you're coherent enough, say you don't take sleeping pills, say you don't use cannabis or anything that's mind altering, you're nice and clear. It's just really easy for things to step in to now communicate with you because you're in that state of altered consciousness. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm someone who the sleep paralysis really gets me, and I don't it happened like the first time in college. And ever since then, it was like, oh, you were taking this medication. There's like 1% of 1% of people ever experience these side effects. This is what this is. And I was like, well, holy shit. Like, this is the most intense thing I've ever felt in my entire life. Like, not even being like a religious person. But at that point, although I was when I was younger, I like had an immediate moment of like calling home. And I was like, Mom, I really think it's like something bad is happening to me.
Well, were you able to see if something was in the room with you while
It's
you were in sleep paralysis?
sometimes like it would be like, but it wasn't ever like a black dark shadow. It always presented as somebody that I knew, but that's somebody that I knew always changed. It was never the same person, but I did know whoever I was that I was seeing in the dream.
Interesting. Because like I'm a firm believer that like sleep paralysis is typically something trying to jump you while you are sleeping. I've had some crazy sleep paralysis situations,
Taking
specifically in
notes.
the house I'm in now, where you are in between sleeping and waking, but I'm never alone. Like I had a crazy sleep paralysis once where there was this guy, he was in a straight jacket on the floor next to the bed. I was able to like see him as I'm paralyzed. His eyes were fully white and he had this crazy grin. And he just like slowly looked up at me like with white eyes, swear on my children, okay? And I fell asleep with my youngest daughter that night. And I finally get out of it and I run to the living room. But before I run to the living room, I'm trying to wake up my boyfriend because my soul has now left the body. So I know my boyfriend's sleeping on the couch. I'm in there trying to wake him up and he's not getting up. So I go back to my body, okay, and I call in Archangel Michael because I just used him. And it was like this boom of white light. I was able to get up. Now I'm able to really get up. I'm able to go into the living room. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, why wouldn't you wake up and help me? And he has no clue what I'm talking about. And I start to explain to him what just happened and the thing that I saw in the room. And he's like, you just left our daughter in there alone with that thing. Can you like go get her? But the best part about this is how I know that whatever that thing was in my room was real. Okay. And I have tons of haunted artifacts. So it could have came from any asylum or psychiatric unit or whatever it may be. But months go by, like 6 months at least, 7 months, 8 months, long time. My daughter is only 7 years old. She just turned 7 years old. Before she turned seven, she was in my room one night and she goes, Mommy, that guy is back again and he's scaring me. I don't think he means to scare me, but he's scaring me with the face he's making. So I asked her to describe to me what she is seeing. She described that thing to the T, the grin, the eyes. And she's like, I don't think he means to look like that, but that's just how he looks. And I was so freaked out that she was sharing that with me. I like turned on my phone. I'm like, let's look at raccoon videos. I turned on raccoon videos to change the vibe, but
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that she literally spoke about that same being that I saw in the room when I went to sleep paralysis that one time. So
Wow.
I really believe I just had too many bad encounters with sleep paralysis. I
Mhm.
really believe that because you're vulnerable in that altered state of consciousness and maybe something's in the house with you, maybe something came home to you, maybe something just sees your light literally off the street. Think about it.
Mhm.
They see life so different than us. They
Yeah.
could, for all we know, they could see through the house. Think of
Mhm.
it as like an open illuminated house. You could see what's in each room and it just sees your light while you're sleeping. So it comes in and comes to you. and it
Yeah,
wants to take over.
it's been like that probably, yeah, since college. That was 2012.
So,
So, like, I have bouts of that all the time.
but just so you know, if that started in college, what was colleges used for back in the day? Most of them were tuberculosis hospitals and like makeshift
Mm.
tuberculosis hospitals. All the colleges at one point in time, they didn't know what to do with overflow of bodies. So if you were to look up that college, I bet you that they housed tuberculosis patients for a small period of time or something of that nature. So I
Yeah,
wouldn't
I'm
be
definitely
surprised.
going to do that because even I mean, I'm in my childhood home, lived here for like most of my life until I went to college. Then I spent like a stint in Colorado for almost 10 years. But now I've been back and I've been back for about 3 years. And go out to all these paranormal locations, investigate, do ghost hunting. And I know the ones that I've brought back a little something something and the ones that I leave without because my son who sleeps in and he's 5 when he sleeps in the other room across the hall from me, when his sleep is off, it generally correlates with something like I felt like some type of experience at a location to come back. And then as soon as I maybe do something here to cleanse my space or to reset intentions of who's allowed here and who's not allowed here, he doesn't come in my room anymore and sleeps just fine. And I'm like, these are not coincidences, like when these things
I have.
happen, those correlate and it's kind of like my markers, of like when
I
I
get
need to
it.
take a little more action.
I totally get it. When I bring stuff home, I could tell there's a whole pattern. My well-being changes, my habits change, my personality. I notice the patterns. I'm like, great, now what's about to happen?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Sometimes it's almost, I mean, for me anyway, sometimes it's like a dreadful feeling too of like, well, if something's coming, I've done the best that I can do with what I have, right? But if whatever's going to be here is going to be here, and I'll just face it when I have to. And I mean, not that it's been to a significant degree, or because I might draw my line way before any of those things, but it is something that I do think about in continuing like a paranormal life career whatever. So what would you suggest for others who do open themselves up to locations spirit that is something they could do daily?
Well, before leaving the location, I always say, like, you guys cannot come home with me. I have a full house. You don't want to join the party. There's enough spirits, there's enough kids, there's enough animals. Like, stay here, please. Um, I mean, you could go as far as obviously, saging yourself or Palo Santo, various, crystals, religious items, things that we wear on our body. Those are all ways of, technically, we don't need those items. Those are all ways of setting the intention.
Mm,
Um, the thing is, it just doesn't always guarantee it. There's always going to be a risk in this field. Some
hmm
people believe that, some people don't. We're going and we're talking to things. And a lot of these paranormal investigators, they're not a medium or a channel. So they're just going in and talking to things. Maybe, they're talking to anything. So anything might come calling. There's always a risk. There really is. When it comes to intelligent spirits, like people who were once a soul, I don't find those beings to be the rest. It's these
mm.
other things that kind of are in the in between the living and the departed. Maybe they never was like of this earth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm interested to know a little bit more of like those maybe in between ones, or people throw out like the word demon, and everybody has a different definition of what that means, or like a non-living person, a spirit, or like a an elemental, or all of these different things. And I'm sure that they're called so many different things across time and culture and religions and whatnot. But um what are your categories? How do you know? Okay, this is an intelligent being that was once a soul. This not so much.
You could feel it. Well, I could feel it. I could feel the difference, whether it feels like a mom or a dad or a grandma, even like not so great individuals who were once souls. Maybe they were child molesters or rapists or murderers. You could still feel that they are a soul. They definitely have a different energy to them. There's these other things that they're not human. They're questionable. Doesn't mean they're a demon. Okay. Because if it was a demon, I mean, people think it has to be crazy. to encounter a demon. Like you go into the house and things are going to start like exploding and crosses are going to turn upside down instantly. It's not always it's really not to that degree. Think about it. It starts off small. It needs to let its way in and then it needs to slowly take over. However it may. It's going to show up in your thoughts and it's going to make you think like say you were once an addict. Okay, you're a recovered addict. All of a sudden, you find your brain going to, I feel like I want to get high. I feel like I want to use randomly. Okay, now every day you find yourself, your brain is going to that. Like the second you get home from work, it's like I want to use. I want to use. It's really not you. It's this thing trying to get to your trigger points. It's trying to break you down. Does that make sense? Then
Hmm.
maybe if it can't break you down in that sense, what is it going to do? It's going to start going after things that you love people, animals. You're going to notice it's trying to make your life harder and harder. It's not Hollywood really Hollywooded it up. They really did. Think of the
Hmm.
Conjuring movies. I
Right.
don't, it's not always to that. It doesn't start off like that. You know, it like works its
Right.
way into the house and it slowly starts to move itself along progressively. But then there's other things that maybe aren't a demon. Maybe they're a low end demon. Maybe they're just this dark entity. Like, you know, when you live in a home with maybe a lot of abuse, drug use, all these things, a lot of negative energy. Okay. All of that starts to, energy doesn't die. It's got to do something. Maybe it
Hmm.
starts to build and form and create itself to be a non human like entity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And I always wonder, from any there's a few readings that I've had from a few people, and sometimes they get these confused looks on their face, or like really just frumpy faces, and they're like, they'll just like be thinking, Nope, get out of here. Nope, not allowing that in. Up, this is not for your highest good. Like, go away. Like all these things, and I'm like, what is that? Like, do you ever like have something from some spirit realm, right, that wants to give you a certain message or influence a certain way, and you're like, yeah, no, I'm not saying
Yeah, I mean, well, one, I say everything. Whether
that?
it's bad or good, I'm going to relay all the
Mhm.
messages. But what you're referencing, I've had weird experiences like that before. Maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I was doing a reading out of my camper, like my trailer that you go camping in. I was using it as like an office space for the day because the client didn't they came all the way from Jersey to come and see me. Okay. So I sat with them for their reading and I'm talking to their dad and I'm doing, the whole reading and all of a sudden I felt the energy shift and something steps in that has nothing to do with this woman at all. I don't know what the hell it was or why like just it must have been something that I picked up because I
Mm.
love to like drag in all the creepy shit. And it must have been something that was with me. It interrupts the reading. And I hear her dad being like, that he doesn't belong here. That doesn't belong here. Like it's not me. And this thing starts to talk to me and wants me to talk to her about how she should just have another drink, and is talking about like drinking and stuff because she was a recovered alcoholic and was trying to like stab at her by me like telling her that she should like drink it. Like it was weird. And still to this day, and I still talk to this woman, and she's like, "Do you remember the time that thing like interrupted our reading and was, being like nasty and everything?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I do remember that. That happened once." So there was that, There's been some other readings though where something else steps in, but that's something that's in the family's home.
Mm.
So this reading that I'm describing to you was really strange. That thing had nothing to do with her. That was something I guess that was kind of following me. And it wanted to interrupt the reading and go after her and her flaws because she used to be an alcoholic.
Yeah, because it's happened. I mean, I haven't gotten like a crap ton of readings, but it's definitely been like I would say at least half of the time of the ones that I've
That's
had,
weird.
there's
That
been
shouldn't be
that thing.
happening.
And I'm like, I
But
don't know what that is, but like, not being, medium, psychic, whatever anybody wants to, label themselves as, I'm like, oh, maybe that's just something that like happens, and there's certain boundaries where they won't say something, or something super influential, and maybe in a negative way, or whatever. So I wasn't sure if there were any like boundaries that you'd have like with spirit, be like, nah, get out of here. I'm not telling them that, you know?
no, I don't have any boundaries. I don't know if you're in your instance, maybe these readers didn't want to relay some information to you because it was something bad, you know, and they
Yeah.
just didn't feel like sharing that. But I do share that information. If someone's going to die soon, I'm telling the client that, and it's happened a few times where I was like, oh God, like your dad's going to be passing very soon, and it happens. I actually did a reading for a woman who owns a lot of funeral homes out in the city, Harlem area, and her dad, I she sat with me. Didn't even mean to give her a reading. I was doing an investigation at her brand new millionaire house built on like the Hudson River or whatever. And I went to go sit with her in the car to comfort her. And I picked up on the fact that her dad was slowly dying in the hospital currently from dementia, brain bleed, crazy stuff. And she's like, is he going to die soon? And that was the month of January. And I'm like, no, he's not dying in January. And I'm like, they're telling me he's going to die on my birthday. And I found that so weird. I literally got a phone call a few weeks later. He passed on my birthday.
Oh my gosh.
So there's times where I will have to relay the information, someone is passing soon. But sometimes it's a good thing. Maybe I need to relay that information because if I didn't tell the client that, they wouldn't have maybe spent that last week with their loved one and got closure and got to say goodbye, if that makes sense. So I find it important. I'm going to relay everything. There's times where I have to give medical advice. Like I'm like, oh my God, like your husband, they're showing me his heart. He really needs to go get an EKG. He needs to get like a full like stress test, all the things. Go do it immediately. That's what they're saying. So I'm going to tell you right now. And then I'll get phone calls being like, wow, you saved my life or you saved my husband's life. And I'm like, no, I didn't. They saved your life.
Spirit
I
did.
was just right.
Yeah.
I was just relaying the message because if they didn't go and get that, CAT scan, they would have gone into like, not CAT scan, EKG, and full stress test. If I didn't send them to go and do that, they would have gone into cardiac.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I would certainly want all of the messages, good, bad, indifferent, and whatever on the spectrum in the middle because I like the information like you said, it informs me, it allows me to have a choice or the client to have a choice of what do
right,
I want to do with this information? You could do nothing and that's your choice or you could do something and that might be a better one. Like,
maybe some of the readers maybe just don't want to be responsible. I know there's
mm,
people who have like, they want an NDA signed before readings. People get that like where it's like for entertainment purposes only because they
right.
don't want to get in trouble if they're wrong or if they're right. I don't know if I should do that. Maybe I should do that. I allow my clients to record me. I let them
Mhm.
record their sessions. I'm just fully open to everything, like I'll
Yeah,
tell you the past, I'll tell you the present, tell you the
well, in at
future.
least in Pennsylvania too, like there are kind of like archaic laws from the 1800s, things like an 1862 law where divination practices are illegal. Tarot is illegal. Calling yourself a psychic medium without some type of signage that does say I'm not responsible for these things or this is entertainment only. And
That's still to this day.
to this day, the governor
Oh,
actually just posted on his Facebook about like reversing that, but that was like a very early Pennsylvania law that's literally still existing. There is a tarot card reader on the other side of the state, near Philly, who had cops at her door being like you can't do this and like she's fighting back on social media. The governor's like maybe we shouldn't have this practice anymore or this law seems a little silly, like, don't you think? So,
so in order to read, you just need something that says for entertainment purposes.
yeah, or something that says like have to sign like I'm not liable for whatever it is that you
Then you
receive
are
from
allowed
me.
to practice.
Yeah.
I just need to know this because I plan on moving to Pennsylvania.
And hopefully, and I mean, I know many, all of my readings mostly have taken place here. Like one of, I call her my spiritual advisor. She hates that I call her that, but I think it's funny, and I think that for me, that's who she is to me. And I'll go to her for an energy work session or like a tarot reading or whatever, and she just does it and just fine. But that one case is just like blowing up currently of like this is not okay. We should just abolish this thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Still a witch hunt to this day.
Yeah, and I think that no matter what the stigma of like unseen or occult or anything paranormal, spooky, whatever is still very much taboo. Like there's a convention next weekend that be doing some podcast interviews for the guests there and they originally had a location in Loretto, very Catholic town, and now it's in Evansburg, our county seat, and I don't claim to know what happened to make maybe it was just they wanted a bigger venue.
Oh,
There's lots of vendors, so maybe they
I
just
think
wanted a
I know
bigger
which one
venue,
you're
but
talking about. Actually, I think I know what you're talking about. They decided it was a big taboo and they didn't want it there.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
that's
If it's
kind of
like,
what I think may have happened, but maybe not. Maybe they just wanted a bigger venue, but to have it go from like a super strict like Catholic town to like kind of last minute go to the other one, it kind of made me think like I wonder
no,
if
I'm
they
pretty
didn't
sure it
want
was the
that.
town.
Mm.
I don't even know which thing you're talking about, but I really feel I think I know what you're talking about. And they moved it due to them being uncomfortable. I think it was
Mhm.
the governor or whoever, somebody higher up was like, hell no, we're not doing this.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the thing that I was thinking may have happened with like the quick switch. I mean, I think it's better now where it's at anyway, but it is like a sometimes you put that up in a community, especially ones who may be like very like closed minded or very traditional, or kind of like you step back into that town, you step back into the 50s, which is kind of like the area that I live in, and anything that's outside of that norm is like no.
That's what worries me because I have a big name here on Long Island. I was named the best psychic medium on Long Island. I have a huge
Hmm.
clientele. I work with a lot of the restaurants and shops and all these different things, hotels. So I really want to move to Pennsylvania. So I worry about leaving here and going there and being like, which, like, or they want to burn me alive because of who I am and what I do. But I
I think it'll be
really want to be out
very
there.
helpful to be in an area maybe that has more accepting of different modalities of healing. I think even in this area that is so very almost like 1950s, there's the girl that I go for energy work is 10 minutes down the street, and then the other one that I go for human design is 45 minutes in the opposite direction. So it's like, there it's here, and I think that there's like some abundance there, but it may not be as like open and welcoming as saying like, I mean, I don't think that the papers ever said, hey, here are our best psychic mediums of Cambria County where I live. Like, I think that would be like, oh hell no, that's not going in the paper, right? Like, but what makes you want to come to Pennsylvania specifically? And do you know like where region wise you'd like to be?
I do know. I do know where I want to go. I just do so much work out there. I'm in Pennsylvania. Like literally, I will be out there this month. I will be out there next month. I'm out there monthly. I think I'm out there. I'm just out there way too much. I do a lot of work um, out in the PA area, and I don't know. It really draws to me. There's a specific place that I do want, but I don't want to talk about it. God forbid someone tries to snatch it. I will be heartbroken. But there's a specific location. It is on the east side of Pennsylvania. It's close enough to where if I needed to come to Long Island, maybe it's a 3.5 hour. It won't be too bad of a drive. Maybe 4 hours. I guess it really depends on the day of traffic.
Right.
But I could still come back to Long Island to do some of my larger events
Hmm.
and then go back to PA. But my goal is I want something so massive and so big that everybody could come to my
You.
creepy giant haunted house. And I would love to hold, paranormal investigations, spiritual retreats, galleries, I don't know,
Oh,
just all sorts of
spiritual
things.
retreat. I'm all about that. You get that together when all of that goal happens and comes true to you. Shoot me an email. I will be there because that
I
sounds
will.
fantastic.
But that's my goal. I want my home to be my business, so it needs to be
Mhm.
big because I do have. There's a lot I want to do, so I'm looking at things that need to be like minimum of 9 bedrooms. They need to be huge.
Yeah, I think that there's so much potential too in like the area like in Pennsylvania, at least over on a little bit more like I'm like a little bit more southwest, kind of like an hour north of Pittsburgh is where I'm at. I'm 20 minutes away from the Grand Midway Hotel. It's literally I pass the Grand Midway every Friday when I take my kid to occupational therapy, and I know that you love that place. And if you and Blair have any special things coming up, comment.
I do. I will be there the first weekend of August. I don't think this is announced yet to the public, but he has me coming out to do a seance weekend. So
Ooh,
I think this is going to be more advertised to like the locals. Technically, you're a local, you're only 20 minutes away.
that's right.
And then in September with Dave Giuliano, I do a lot of work with him. We have an event there. I think all the rooms are already almost sold out. So if anybody wants a room, like now's your opportunity before it is gone. That's
Yeah.
going to be a fantastic event. I do a lot of stuff there. I would love to live on the west side. Blair has begged me quite a few times to buy in his town. He's like, we could take over the town together. And I'm like, I don't know if anyone's going to come and see me here. I don't have
Mhm.
any service. I have to literally be standing next to his house doing this with my phone
Oh, yeah, when
to
I moved
have
back, I had to
service.
change cell phone carriers because I was like,
It,
"Well, can't stay here with 1 bar of service, like, can't live like this."
it's like the Twilight Zone. So I would love to be over. I would love that so much, but
Mhm.
I don't know how that's going to work on a business aspect for me because of like this is all I do for a living. This is all I do for a living.
Well, and
So
it'll be nice because it sounds like the eastern part of Pennsylvania is kind of like your midpoint anyway, right? Like, you can head up to Jersey when you need to. Heading across the state really isn't all that far either. Maybe, like the 3 or 4 hours, same to Jersey. So maybe there will be opportunities for both, and you can just be in the heart of the eastern part of it, and it'll all work out.
I'd be near a lot. I would be near Gettysburg. I would be near Jim Thorpe. I would be near a lot of towns that I can do work with, that I can collaborate with. And then I'm close enough to travel back to Long Island or to go to Jersey or, go wherever. I love the West Side so much, but I don't think I could live over there and work. It wouldn't be as busy. I
Mhm.
was really set on the west side. There's so many cool properties. If you
Oh,
look,
yeah,
there's some great stuff out by you that I would love
and
to
they're
buy.
cheap. You know what I mean?
So
It's
cheap.
much cheaper than anything here. Even, I mean, just like
So
looking
cheap.
for houses and this and that, but millennial with like lots of college debt to like literally be a counselor and help people with their lives too. So it's hard to find something to live in myself, my own home, let alone purchase like an extra one to do something with. But sometimes I'll just jump on Zillow and I'm like, damn, that's $30,000 foreclosure. I'm like, we could do just a little TLC here, spruce that up there. Like it might be all right.
It's so affordable and it's so historical. It's really incredible.
Oh yeah, and it's a great place to connect back to things that I didn't think I wanted to connect back to. I didn't think that I was ever going to come back to Pennsylvania, especially after going further west to Colorado. I mean, 300
Colorado
days
is
of
everything, by the way. I love
it's
Colorado. That's an
my
important place to
favorite.
me.
Like,
Yeah,
300 days of sunshine for this shit? Like, why did I make this trade-off? And then I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm going back to all of those things that I really loved, like
yeah,
history, the paranormal things that I do here could have never happened for me there, mostly because, more of my village is here. So it
right.
was easier to be able to do that. And I think just like going back and connecting to the things that really light you up bring about some questioning, like, oh, I can have it in a new way. And so I wanted to something that you had said on a podcast recently, um, kind of triggered this in me in terms of belief. But someone had asked me recently, like, what do you believe in? Like, genuinely for the first time, what do you believe happens after we die? And I said, well, if we can manifest kind of like our own reality to some degree, why couldn't we do that in the afterlife? And so when I was listening to you and I was reading some of the things that you have written too, you kind of have that same conversation
Yes.
with souls of like, I can make this how I want it. So I'm so interested to hear more about that.
Well, when it comes to the afterlife, it's not like I grew up in a very Catholic household, and I've learned through communicating with spirits that heaven is not just these big pearly gates and we're all hanging out in some courtyard in front of this giant castle. It really is not like that at all. I have learned from all these different souls that every single life um, that was once living here on earth, now on the other side, they're like living out different heavens. And I think that really kind of falls into the type of life they lived here in the living for whatever reason. Like this one man, he had a lot of dogs and loved animals, and he was a Long Islander, but he really wanted to live out his days in like the middle of nowhere mountains of Missouri, and that is where he lived for a short period of time. Um, so that's how he's living out his heaven, literally mountains of Missouri, like log cabin. Another couple that I read once who both passed, I think, at the same exact time, this elderly couple, they love going on cruises. And the way they showed it to me is that they were living out their days on the other side on a cruise ship. This little girl who passed of cancer at like 5 years old, hers was different. It was more of like sitting in the clouds, that was more
Mhm.
heaven-like for whatever reason, and I'm not sure why hers looked like that, but that's how hers looked. But everybody's is different. The thing is, you are not stuck there. You are not stuck on the other side. I love to compare it to Stranger Things, the
Mhm.
upside down, which is hand in hand with our world, just not as dark and creepy as that. Although we do have that as well. We have both.
Mhm.
But I always explain how that it is literally side by side. We literally live amongst them. It is not this faraway place. It is literally here around us consecutively. Like, we are literally co-creating our lives here in the living with our loved ones on the other side. So when they pass, they're coming to see us. If we're going on vacation, you best believe they're coming on vacation with us typically. Like, they
Mhm.
want to live life through us, but then they also have their heaven that they've created. And then maybe they have like angel duties as well. If you were a cop in the living, you're probably going around trying to somehow whisper into people's ears, like, trying to coach them as a guide to maybe
Mhm.
do the right things. Maybe if you died from suicide here in the living, you are now on the other side, and one of your duties that you pick up from time to time is literally trying to be that angel in someone's ear, trying to whisper to them, like,
Mhm.
don't kill yourself, don't kill yourself. So it's not just one form. It really isn't. Heaven is not this faraway place. We literally live amongst them. Everyone's a little bit different. And then they also are like kind of co creating life through us. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
I
then
mean, I
doing
just
various things.
think about like how transformative and comforting and open it would make everyone's life if we learned it that way. If we like learned it in this way and would be able to grow up doing that rather. I mean, grief is so hard in the
It
first
is.
place, and to think that they are in this far off away place where they are just so much better and they have no need for anybody here anymore and they got to their place. It's like, oh, so now I'm abandoned and forgotten and lost and confused and feel no connection, but really they could just be walking that same path with you, probably are, and you're thinking they're untouchable, unreachable.
Right. I always explain to people that the second you're thinking of your loved ones, that's them popping into your head to make you think of them. When they grab your attention, whether it's in our mind, because we just all of a sudden think of them, that's them. That's them intruding our thoughts to get our attention, or, other various things like, grabbing our attention to make us look at the clock on the oven and it says 11:11. It's like, hello, I'm
Mhm.
in the room with you, pay attention. Or, feathers, dimes, or just literally like when they pop into our head, that's them. That is them intruding our thoughts to be like, think of me, I am
Yeah.
here.
Right. I
It's
know.
really not as complicated as some people think it is. Connecting with the other side is so much simpler. It doesn't have to be full on Ouija board Bianca where we're having full conversations.
Right.
It's very simple. It really isn't that complex.
And I think that that kind of sums up my kind of spiritual journey on this last year was, okay, I'm going to start investigating again. I'm going to get back into what I, want to do. I'm going to travel the states, travel the whole side of this country. I don't care. I'm doing it. And then I got into like Reiki and tarot and now human design, some astrology. Everything is just all kind of coming together, and I would have all of these limitations on myself. Well, I need to cleanse my space with Paulo first. I need to sit down with the crystal. I need to do some breath work. And then I need to get into the space where I can pull a card. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. So a couple months ago, I was like, I'm going to do a one shuffle wonder. Because if I really believe that I'm going to get whatever I'm going to get that I need, it doesn't matter how many times I shuffle this deck, I'm going to get whatever I'm supposed to. And really, when I did start making it simple and stripping away all of the performative stuff and the limitations, it's never been easier to connect with it. And I wish I would have known that 9 months ago.
Yeah, when it comes to like tarot or oracle cards, like you just have to like shuffle, like,
Mhm.
and ask them to make sure they pull the card for you. You're always going to get what you need to get. When it comes to me opening up for a reading, I do put a lot of steps into it before going to my gallery or going to my client, but that's because, as you know, I learned that I really need to set the intention specifically and
Mhm.
not deal with weird, creepy things that I have in the past. So before a reading, I'm open. I have steps. I'm clearing myself of my own personal emotion, feelings, and thoughts. I'm asking for
Mhm.
protection. I'm asking my gatekeepers to open the gates, say specifically to you, your loved ones, your guides, your higher self. And then I'm asking your loved ones, please come forward with full evidential information, names, dates, validations, full clarity. all the things. And then I'm like, thank you. We could begin now.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you do that. I'm so glad. I would never want someone who does have those intimate details and vulnerabilities and that exchange of like the power dynamic of like you are here to give me that. I would never want anyone to rush in, into doing it.
Some
And
people
it's
do. My
mhm.
good friend Danielle, I'm a huge skeptic when it comes to mediums and psychics. I love her. She is a well-known medium over in Jersey, Danielle Taberna. She's fantastic. And me and her talk about like I have this whole spiel of what I need to do before I begin. And she's like, no, I just jump right in. I'm like, you do that. I'm gonna protect myself. But she doesn't dabble
Mm,
to work. Oh God, I'm getting a phone call. Sorry.
that's okay.
Investigations and stuff. I actually did an event with her in Tennessee last year. It was March. We got to go to Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary and we went to the old Harriman Hospital.
Oh,
Great
I want to
trip.
go to
It was
Harriman so bad.
so like I was blown away. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't like I first day Brushy Mountain, second day Old Harriman. Old Harriman blew me away. I was like, what is happening right now? The
Mm,
amount of disembodied voices, I was like blown away. That place blew me away. I wasn't expecting that. Brushy Mountain versus Old Harriman, you would never know.
no.
You would think Brushy Mountain was going to be like over the top, which it was. It was really cool too. But Old Harriman, like that blew me away. I don't know.
I'm
Anyway,
excited to get there.
well, Danielle came on that trip and she doesn't work. And that was like her first paranormal adventure ever. And it probably will be her last.
I was gonna say, does
Um,
she wanna do more after that? Because that sounds
She
pretty wild.
doesn't. She doesn't want to work. She doesn't want to work in the paranormal field, but she's very talented. She's a great medium. I think she's like a genius of an astrologer, and she doesn't do it the way I do things. She doesn't.
Mhm.
She doesn't have that huge opening and all the things. She just jumps in and begins, and we
Yeah, I
laugh
mean,
about that. We're different, you know.
and it's nice that like, people can come into what they know, their own, right? Like if someone does have to take lots of time to prepare and then if somebody doesn't just kind of like, nope, I got this. I know what's up. And you mentioned too, maybe there is some side quests that you do that would make you want to maybe cleanse or protect yourself or whatever from in order to give the offerings that you do. And I'm so excited
Yeah.
to be a part of one of your offerings even after this. So
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
very excited.
Oh, good.
I've just had the best time. I probably could keep you here for hours upon hours, and at some point in time, I'll probably be like, Bianca, come back and chat with me because it's just been. I think we're just like scratching the surface, really.
Oh, yeah. There's so much we could go over.
Yeah, but so insightful, and I appreciate. Like, I can just tell you're very authentic. Like, there's no like it's not like pulling teeth. It's just very organic and authentic. And I love that about you. And for
Thank
everyone
you.
listening as well, watch, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, be alerted of all our future episodes that happen here on Thirsty Thursdays. I'm going to post all the links in the description so that you can find Bianca as well. And hopefully you can find your way to some of her offerings too.